Hi guys, today I'm excited to talk to you about In the Heights. Now this movie comes to theaters and HBO Max on June 11th. It is from the brilliant mind of Lin-Manuel Miranda. He actually wrote it before he wrote Hamilton, which is probably my favorite musical of all time. So I was really excited to watch this. I had not seen the musical. I had not listened to the soundtrack. I went into this totally blind except for watching a trailer. And let's get my spoiler-free review for In the Heights. Before we do, if this is your first time here, I'd love it if you take 1 second and hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed the content, go ahead and hit that notification bell. All right, let's talk about In the Heights. Hey, Tessa from Mama's Geeky here. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel. All right, now like I said, I went into this not knowing much on purpose. So I want to leave this option to you guys. If you have not seen the musical, if you don't know the story, I'm not going to give too much of it away in this review because I want you to be able to go in sort of blind like I did. Now, right from the beginning, I got immediately sucked in with the music. I was like, wait, I know that guy. Oh, it's a guy who was in Hamilton as well, cast as the lead, Anthony Ramos. That was a brilliant move. He's so good, and he's so good as this lead. Proves yet again how just incredibly talented he is. But the whole thing is just so good. Like, I started off with a smile, like, into it, like, tapping my toes, like, yeah, this is good. I love this. I love what Lin is doing with this music. And then, like, that continued throughout the entire 2 hours and 24 minutes or however long it is. Like, there was not a moment where I was like, oh, this is really boring, Now, there are some moments that drag a little tiny bit, but nothing that's like, oh, they totally could have cut this out. I like how they took a musical and made it a movie, much like with Grease and other things like that, whereas the Hamilton that we got was literally a recording of the performance. This is very much, it's a movie, it changes scenes, there's talking in between the songs, not a lot of it, but there is. So I enjoyed that aspect of it, but I also like how much it feels like it's still made for the stage in this movie as well. There's a huge cast. Everyone is fantastic. Like, that's the thing. With an ensemble, usually there's people that are going to outshine others, and that doesn't really happen. Yes, there's some people that definitely stand out, but it's not like you forget about this side character when they're not on the screen, which is really impressive and just goes to show like that the casting was just a great choice. Stephanie Beatriz, by the way, did not expect to see her in this. I guess I missed her in the trailer, and wow, what a different character from Rosa in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is one of my favorite shows, and Rosa's probably my favorite character, or one of at least. So it was very interesting to see her in this role, very opposite of who she usually plays. So I was intrigued, and I thought that was really fun, and she's really good at it too, which again shows how versatile she is and just how amazing she is. Now, the story, real quick, there's a bodega owner, and he kind of wants to get out. He wants to go back to the Dominican Republic, so he's trying to save all the money that he can in order to do that. This is, of course, based in Washington Heights, where they feel like they are being, I don't want to say pushed out, but definitely the Latinx culture, they're feeling like they're losing their culture, right? They're like, hair and nail salon is moving to another location. So it's kind of about stuff like that. One of the girls, Nina, she's gone off to college, and she kind of feels like she's betraying her culture in doing so. It's just, she's saying, she's there and she got mistaken for wait staff once. So she's not sure this is something she wants to do. So there's all this kind of struggle, but it all comes back to the Heights, right? This is also during a blackout. Like, I think one of the first things it says on the screen is like 3 days to blackout. So there's, of course, the neighborhood abuela, who just has basically adopted everybody, had no kids of her own, but is family to everyone. Everyone is family in this neighborhood, and it's a great story and message of hope in that way. Now, of course, there's struggles and issues. There's some love going on in here. I don't want to give away too much, like I said, but there's certain people who have crushes on certain people, and maybe certain people get together. Just, it's awesome though. It's such a great story, but the main problem, I think, is there's so many stories that sometimes it feels like some people didn't get their fair due, I guess, is the way to put it. And that's why I say, like, nobody outshined anybody, really. Like, there's some standouts, yes, but there weren't any that didn't do a good job in their performances. It's more like, I feel like I didn't get to see enough of their story. I really would have loved more of this person. But again, you know, what can you do? I mean, I guess we could have had a 4-hour movie and gotten that. But with the 2-hour and 25-minute movie, like, this was good. Loose ends were tied up. There's several moments that I cried. Some towards the middle, towards the end. I mean, I just became so invested in these characters. Here's the thing. This is a musical, and every single musical number feels iconic. That's like the best way to describe it. They're huge, or really, really small, right? Sometimes they're elaborate, and they've got, like, the main cast plus, like, all these extra dancers, and they're doing all this crazy stuff, and it's bright, and it's bold, and it's vibrant, and sometimes it's very, very small and intimate, and they feel just as meaningful, you know? All of them are just so good. And like I said, I hadn't heard the soundtrack before, and now I can't stop listening to it. I love it. I love the music. I love everything about this. There's one scene, a pool scene, where it's quite clear they brought in some people for some reshoots because the green screen is there. It is not great. You only see it like 3 times. You're like, oh yeah, that's a green screen. But other than that, I mean, I really have zero complaints about this. Besides, like I said, you feel like some people's stories are like, I want more. But it doesn't affect the outcome at all. It doesn't affect the way I feel about the movie. This movie made me happy and joyful, and I was hopeful, and I really, really enjoyed it. Now, yes, there are moments that I was heartbroken and I cried, and then I cried happy tears sometimes. I mean, this thing is just, it does a great job of encompassing the viewer into just caring about these characters. I felt like I was in the Heights. I felt like I was friends and neighbors with these people. I mean, this thing, it's just so good. And it's one of those movies that you can watch more than once, which says a lot, especially for the music. I'm going to go out and get the soundtrack now. Much like I watched Hamilton and like got the soundtrack the next day. In the Heights, I've already ordered the soundtrack. I'm really into it. I love the music. I think Lin-Manuel Miranda is brilliant. Of course, a lot of this actually working probably has to do with the fact that he so closely worked on this movie. Not only was he producer and a main part of the film, he's actually in the film, and he even has a solo song, which I thought was fantastic. He's in it just enough, right? Just enough to give you a taste, but not to overshadow the rest of the cast, which I love about him. Like, it feels like a smart choice, and it feels like a choice he made on purpose, right? He easily could have starred in this, and he didn't. Listen, this movie is so great. It's a love letter, not only to Washington Heights and the Latinx culture, right? But it's also a love letter to neighborhoods and neighbors. And I live in a neighborhood where we can go outside and we see our friends. We know everybody. We know what's going on with their family. We go on walks and we stop 15 times because we're talking to everybody that we see. And that feels like what it was in the Heights. And that's in the Heights. Feels like that's what you got in Washington Heights. So for me to recognize that in the neighborhood that I have, it makes me appreciate the neighborhood that much more. It's one of my favorite parts about where I live. So I felt like I could relate in that aspect to it. And someone leaves and goes off and everyone's sad and they throw them a party and they can't wait for them to come back and visit. I mean, that's exactly where I live. So I really took that out of this, and it makes me excited to go out and see my neighbors this summer and spend time with them. So if you've already seen In the Heights, by the time you get to this review, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Be sure to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything else like this. You can follow me over on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at Mama's Geeky over there. MAMASGEEKY. Now, thanks to the amazing musical numbers, it's gorgeous to look at. An incredible ensemble cast. Again, my main issues were just that couple of times where you're like, this is definitely the reshoots or something with a green screen during that pool song. And then, you know, you feel like maybe you want a little bit more from certain characters. Doesn't take away from the movie at all. Listen, I'm giving In the Heights a 5 out of 5. That's what I'm doing. It's a 5 out of 5. It's darn near perfect. Anything that was wrong with it didn't take away from the movie. I was thrilled to watch it. I was beaming from ear to ear the entire time, and I can't wait to watch it again. Thanks for taking the time to watch this, guys. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much to all of my monetary supporters, my members here on YouTube, as well as my patrons. If you haven't joined yet, please consider doing so. We have some really awesome perks, including a monthly Zoom meeting where we get to talk face to face. Thank you again to everyone who supports me.